I'll put this.
Sugar, spice, and everything nice. This
Yeah.
is how the Powerpuff Girls were made.
Me too.
All right, so hello, Soraya. How are you doing today?
I think, my day has gotten better as the day has gone on.
That's
So-
good. So obviously today we're here because we want to learn more about the personality of Soraya, or should I say Val, should we call it?
Alter ego.
We all some of us live, I would say, kind of dual personalities a little bit. We have our online personas, we have our actual reality of our personas.
Yeah.
I'm Joseph, otherwise I go by Joseph the Voice. So I understand that presence of kind of living that dual life, I guess, in a way where
Yes.
you're trying to build an image that you want people to kind of captivate and kind of latch onto, but you're also trying to also live your life and kind of maintain the status quo of things. So
Yes.
I know for you, this is your first year being a part of Gateway, kind of building into the systems, and you've had a lot of aspirations to kind of build into key areas. So maybe you can take a moment and kind of explain to me, what are some of those key areas that you kind of do want to build onto, some of those exciting points that you've seen, and where you think you might be able to kind of add some extra value into the program?
So I definitely think with all the resources and the access to the materials that we have, I think that there's a lot of different things that we can do, and I absolutely want to push us into the direction of hitting our limits and definitely pushing us to the extreme of what we can do with the materials that we're provided. I know that there's a lot of traveling, there's a lot of conventions and stuff that we go to and we rep for, and so definitely for me personally, I think that I wanted to push us more in that direction because there's no better, promotion than word of mouth and actually being present and being there. That's usually why the esports teams who end up making it to the big arenas and nationals, you'll see them everywhere, but the teams who usually don't make it, you won't hear from them as much. So you really have to be in person, you have to be present, you have to constantly be putting your best foot forward, and that's what I personally want to push our team and just the whole group as a whole towards.
Absolutely, and I know you've talked about presence being a big thing. We've talked about networking in some of these other interviews as well, but I think one thing that's really important is for you, you look at it as a little bit different perspective. For you, you kind of want to be the event manager. You kind of want to help build into these presence and kind of establish what is that tone when we're walking into these buildings, when what are the angles of focus that we want to do? What are the demographics we kind of want to attack? And I know all of us kind of have different perspectives too on when we do go out to these, maybe what we do want to attack. So I know we'll be sitting down, we'll be talking as a team, kind of getting some things figured out as we go. But what are key areas that maybe you want to single in on yourself to kind of help build in these demographics or in these key areas?
So I definitely think what I want to focus more on is trying to get more people into Gateway and also bring in more long-term viewers, specifically of our Twitch channels and on our social medias. I remember bringing it up to Coach Q. I was like, you know what, why don't we have a TikTok? I feel like that's one of the biggest and most important things, especially with outreach, because you do really want to prioritize, youth, the youth and everything. You definitely want to outreach to, the people on social media, all the people who are the watchers of the games, because that also brings in income for us. It shows everybody else that we're worth putting time and effort and coaching into. So I definitely really want to focus on that. All of those areas are very, very important.
Absolutely, and even just aside from the networking, there's other key areas that I also know you're trying to build into to kind of help define. I know kind of doing more anime-based stuff, and cosplay is important to you. You're actually going to be stepping into Overwatch as our team captain this semester. Yes. So there are other very definitive areas that are very separate as well as intertwined with what we're doing here. So what do you think you're going to be able to do to kind of add values in some of those key areas as well?
I think the biggest thing that I bring is fandom. The biggest thing that I bring is fandom and community, having a very intrinsic knowledge of different, the way the fandom comes into gaming and how gaming affects fandom and how all of it is very closely intertwined. So bringing that together is extremely important, and it definitely brings a whole different aspect, a whole different level to what we have. And that's the bridge that I am. I connect that gap between gaming and then anime and all the culture between there.
I think the more that we can do as a team to kind of build these different aspects of gaming, of culture, of music, of fandom, all these different things that you're saying, and bringing it in to help build more on that presence, I think is going to add a lot of value. And I know even Halloween coming up, we can do a Halloween costume contest for the MGC. We're talking about doing skits and stuff like that, so you can kind of showcase your presence and love for some of the other aspects of gaming and culture. So with all that being said, as we start to get ready for this upcoming season, as we start to get ready for more of these conventions to roll out, how are you going to take your time to kind of balance those things and make sure that we're kind of keying in and focusing on those primary areas?
So definitely, in order to key in and focus specifically on being able to connect the esports with like the whole fandom thing, it's central around esports. So specifically getting those booths out at those conventions, making sure that we as, you know, members, when we're going out to the conventions, we're actually repping, you know, we're interacting with everything, making sure that we put out a good name for ourselves, because reputation is a really, really big thing. And so, like I said, that word of mouth is very, very important. So when I'm personally going to those conventions, I feel like a really big thing is, you know, like if I'm working the booth, instead of being dressed up just in, you know, like a jersey or something, I'd be dressed up as like a popular video game character. That gets people to come over and be like, can I take a picture with you? And then I'll end up being at the booth, you know, repping all of us. And then it's also bringing in that fandom element, because the more that you can interact with other people, you gain stuff from that. You gain from that, because at the end of the day, the community is the backbone of gaming. And so gaming could not exist without the community. It's really a symbiotic relationship. So there's a lot to be learned, and there's a lot to explore in that. So definitely centralizing, being like, oh, you know, is there somebody else who wants to wear a costume with me? Maybe someone else wants to dress up with me, or, you know, maybe our booth can be a little bit themed, but always something that can catch people's eye in terms of like gaming and the fandoms around those games, and really appealing and pandering to that.
Absolutely. So creating that excitement factor that just allows us to stand out differently from the other establishments. And I'm really excited because I feel that, like I said, this year alone, it feels like a different energy is coming into the arena. I mean, even outside the arena, let's be honest, just Gateway feels like there's a different breath of fresh air in my eyes, where, like I said, we went from about 32 members to now we're over 90 members and counting. So we've pretty much tripled our numbers. We went from about 12 teams to about 19, 20 teams between 2 different conferences. And we're just continuing to build out. And I'm just gonna say this, that we will definitely need people like you, people like your teammates, and a lot of these other people that are building into the presence that we're doing here to really cultivate and create this culture the way that we want to see it built out. And really, by doing that, it'll help sustain itself. So as we get, you know, Midwest Gaming Classic coming up, I know you're talking about MKE Milwaukee, we're talking about, you know, Gamesgiving coming up. We'll find ways to definitely get you more involved and definitely get our team more involved. So I want to thank you very much for taking the time, sitting down, talking to me. Is there anything else that you'd like to, you know, say to your fans, say to the Gateway, you know, fan base before we head out here today?
I have so many lovely and adoring fans out there. So make sure you come to our booth and watch me perform when I do. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.